I just love learning all the time. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing about interpreting and translating and even teaching. It's something that you have to keep learning and keep reading on it, like you said.
Yeah. And I had an opportunity early on when we started like soon after we started UCLA extension for the interpreting program, I was asked to tutor for elementary school Spanish. And at first I was like, no. But then, I started looking at the material and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, somewhere in my childhood, I remember learning this. Like I could use a refresher. So I remember getting the book for the second grader and going through the lesson. And, it really helped me. I actually tutored for 2 years, 3 years, uh, for and first grade, second grade, and I felt like I was actually going up the grade with the students that I was tutoring because it refreshed the grammatical stuff and the stories and the way that sentences are put together. So
Mm-hmm.
that actually helped me a lot too, working with kids.
And we were talking about the moral responsibility about interpreting and translating. And I'd like to talk more about that because sometimes people go into the medical field without any training and interpret for someone and or translate a document like you said that they don't really know and they think they know but they're interpreting. And if we could talk about the danger of doing that, especially in the medical field, if you're not trained as an interpreter, what are the dangers of interpreting, let's say, even the kids or a family member who's interpreting for a parent when the doctor comes in, or an aunt or an uncle? Like, what are the dangers of doing that if you're not trained as an interpreter?
Yeah, I mean, it could be devastating, as it can be when you're in a courtroom, and somebody's, life may be at stake as well, or maybe something even as simple as, a therapy session. I mean, so many things could go wrong in the settings, and I think it's important to have the knowledge of the scope of my education so that I could, proceed with the encounter or recuse myself from it because I believe that there's more honor in saying, hey, this is beyond the
I
scope of my
don't know.
knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and just, recusing yourself. Now there are emergency situations, but that's a good question. I mean, so many things could go wrong just with, one wrong syllable and then you're diagnosing somebody with one thing and then the doctor really meant another thing and yet I mean using children here in California, I'm not sure how it is in other states. It's actually not allowed. We can't use children. I was a child interpreter before
Me
anything
too.
went into action. I was there for my grandma, for my other grandma, and I mean, it was like thank God thank God everything went right, you know
Yeah.
but yeah, we have a question by Tony, okay, and he's asking us. Um, Tony is a court certified interpreter here in Los Angeles, California, and he's asking us, what do you do to improve your skills? Do you want to go ahead and answer that first?
I honestly read. I read a lot of books and then I watch for Spanish, I'm stronger in English, and I know this. So I watch Spanish shows on TV from Spain and from other countries, Argentina. I think they have like the most shows on Netflix that I watch. And then I try to do the interpreting myself, or I watch it with subtitles or no subtitles. So I do that often, where I read or I watch, and I try to do it myself. But my the language that is my bigger strength is English. So I know that I have to always study the Spanish. So that's what I do for myself.
Okay.
What about you?
Uh, okay, to improve my skills, I get out there and I take my time. Every encounter when I was like new in the profession, every encounter was like, oh my God, here I am, like in the you know, but now it's like, I continue to take every encounter mindfully. So now I'm more mindful about what they're saying. And I recently learned this. I've been attending a conference for education here in California. Well, it's everywhere because it's online now, as is most things. Um, and I learned that I communicate with, say, the attorney or the claimant, and there's an ongoing communication because I'm not a robot. Okay, I'm a human being, and I'm doing my best to be able to deliver my best performance, my best rendition. So how I just communicate now. I'm not afraid to communicate. I'm confident in my ability to be an interpreter, but I am human and I do sometimes have to ask questions. Like I have to ask the claimant, like, what did you mean by that? Or ask the
Hmm.
attorney, can you please repeat the question? So I think once I started to lose that need to be perfect all the time, it just started to flow, okay, and the skills started to become more mature. So as opposed to before when I was like nervous before going into like an encounter where I didn't know the subject matter, now it's like I don't have the problem asking for material to cover for that specific assignment to talk to it's an ongoing thing. It's not like, okay, here's the interpreter and just be perfect. It doesn't, I mean, obviously if it's like a conference or something, I can't be like, oh, excuse me, no, that's different, but I just do my best to communicate with in the encounter that I'm in and do the best I can in that way.
Speaking of which, what do you think about the programs that think that their selling point is that they can interpret or that they can translate, just like the little computer things that can do it? How do you feel about those?
Well, I feel like AI, artificial
Yeah,
intelligence
there you go.
is it's gaining ground. I mean, 10 years ago, yeah, 10 years ago, when I started, I guess researching what I was gonna do when I grew up, right? Um, Interpreting, is something that I spoke to my father about, and my dad said, mind you, in 10, 15 years, computers are going to be so advanced that, they might take over, but they will always need a person behind, So I believe that, they are growing. They're they could work, but you may want to check because a lot of times, they just say things that are either funny or that just don't make sense. But in situations where there isn't like a court case or a medical situation going on, I think it's okay, but it will never replace a
No.
heartbeat and a human, because there's also the cultural
Yes.
encounters that we have too. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so that's
I
where I stand on that, where I
I
don't
think
think they can actually do what the human can do, which is, interpret, like actually explain a meaning of something, which I think I watch 90 Day Fiance. Don't lie. I know all of you guys do. And there's this little thing that they use, and the interpretations are so wrong that the people end up fighting because of what comes out of the little AI thing. And I think
yeah,
it's the funniest thing. They have no idea. And I'm sure when they watch it back themselves, they're like, oh, because on the subtitles, on the captions, it does say it the right way, that so that the viewer can see the right way. But when you see it, it's happening, it's not saying the same thing. And it's
yeah,
like they fight about it. And it's so funny. So I don't think it can happen. I just think that we need the human brain to be able to, because there's so many versions of Spanish, like you were saying, like Mexican Spanish, Peruvian Spanish, Guatemalan Spanish, Salvadorian Spanish, Spain Spanish. They're the same, but they're very different.
what about
But
Spanglish?
Spanglish, I didn't know that Spanglish is also like a talent. I didn't know that people pueden hablar así, cambiar from language to language sin tener que pensarlo is actually a talent. I had no
Yeah,
idea.
Yeah.
That
And
not
you were
everyone
just
can
sitting
do
there,
it.
you were just sitting there doing it for fun.
And people that only that are better that can't do the Spanglish can't understand that. Can't understand Spanglish. So that's, I mean, we're just talented.
And
The
I
Spanglish
feel like
part.
I always felt like I feel like nowadays with like AI and uh, everything that we have at our disposal, you could be doing like a hybrid stuff too, I mean, you could use AI. It's advanced pretty high. It's
Mm-hmm.
up there. I believe the latest number was like 92 to 94% accuracy with some programs. But the beauty of that is if you add like a master's degree on that specific language pair on each side, and it's a stenographer, so they're already used to typing it up. Mixed with the AI,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could have
That
up
could
to
be
like
perfect.
you could have like a 97, 98% accuracy within like 2 to 3 second lag. Do I feel like something like that could potentially one day replace an interpreter? Um, it just depends on the audience and who wants to actually, use that. Could it be used for a town hall meeting or, somewhere where, I believe that that's where we're going with that. It's inevitable, it's inevitable. And I think that if anything, a situation like the one that we're in with COVID-19 and having to really just, arm ourselves with the ability to not just now, connect to the internet, but I mean, have a backup computer and make sure that if you're in a conference or something, that your power doesn't go out. So there are so many things that we've had to learn so fast in the last, 8 months that we're not going to regress back.